This is the voice of the New York Football Giants, Bob Papa, and you are listening to the best throughout Europe, the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. As always, we are proudly in association with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, it is okay to talk. And tonight we are 67% British, 33% Irish. And as always, we are still 100% Giants. Welcome to the New York Football Giants, John Harbaugh. It's all but confirmed. Come on. It's almost a done deal, right? They just need this pen to paper. It's all signed, sealed, and delivered. Barring any 11th hour changes, he will become the Giants' 22nd full-time head coach and the 5th since Tom Coughlin left 10 years ago. Wow. I think it's just it's what we could have all hoped and dreamed for. No Shane or Craig this week because of work commitments, but I am back with Kev and Aaron to begin to look ahead to what could be the start of something really exciting in New York, and it's probably the most excited I've been about Giants football in a long, long time. Boys, how are we doing?
How are we doing? Now, that is an interesting question. I mean, Martin O'Neill is back at Celtic. Marcus Freeman is staying at Notre Dame. And the New York
back at Man United.
And New York Football Giants have got one of the best coaches in the league. Yes, we can actually say that now. So it was a tough sort of season for Giants fans, a tough sort of December, beginning of January for, Celtic and Notre Dame. But today is a good day.
Yeah, we wanted the Giants to pounce, but I don't think any of us quite thought it was going to happen this quickly. I mean, we planned to talk about head coaching candidates on this podcast this week, so it was a little bit weird but yesterday I kind of had the panic of, we need to get ready. We need to change our plans and get ready and think about what we're going to talk about instead. But I think the Giants Twitter is the most united I've seen it in about 4, 5, 6 years. There was I think "Don't let him leave the building" was trending on Twitter.
Don't let him leave.
Yeah. So. I like to think there was a tweet by someone that said that even there was a meeting with, obviously met Jackson Dart and all the ownership. So there was even a meeting of with Cam Scatterboo, and I like to think Cam Scatterboo was brought in as the enforcer, not to let him leave the building and say, "Look, coach, I'm not letting you leave until you sign on the thing," and ran through a wall just to prove his commitment.
Yeah, I mean it happened so quickly. Obviously, when we went off air last week. I said the plan was to talk about head coach candidates, right? And now all of a sudden, in the space of less than a week, it's a case of, wow, we've got one of the best head coaches in the league, potentially just waiting to sign a contract, and it's a done deal, right? So it's crazy how much can change in a week, and it's nice to be a part of this, and it's nice to have this excitement about the team for once. Obviously the last time we were looking for a head coach 4 years ago now, 5 years ago now, it's 2021, wasn't it? The last time we were looking for a head coach was obviously when Brian Daboll came aboard, and it was almost at the time it's like, okay, let's have a look at the candidates. Well, who's available. We knew sort of obviously the Joe Schoen move was kind of coming, and then that meant Daboll was coming with him. And there was a little aura of excitement around the pair of them coming, to hopefully bring a bit of success back to New York. And we saw that in the first season. But then the 3 years after that were absolutely dire, and we find ourselves here now, and with, like I said, potentially one of the best head coaches in the last 20 years, all but signed. And it's kind of a surreal moment, really. Like I said, not since Tom Coughlin was head coach really have I been this excited about Giants football. I mean, I know I've got temporary sort of excitement and expectations, but this is a big move, and I think some people potentially underestimate how big this move is. This is almost like,
franchise altering.
a team at the belt. Give me like a mid to bottom table Premier League team right now. Burnley.
Well,
Let's go with Burnley.
it could be like Leicester when Leicester got
But yeah, let's Burnley, right? So it's almost like Burnley going, thanks very much, Vincent Company. No, it's not Vincent Company. No, Sean Dyche in it. Thanks very much, Sean Dyche. But we're going to bring in Pep Guardiola. That just would not happen. So yeah, for me, it's a massive move, and I can't wait. I really cannot wait, because this isn't just going to potentially alter the success of the franchise moving forward. This is going to alter the culture in the franchise, just everything, potentially alter everything. Everything that has been built over the last few years with Shane and Dave's in charge, it could all be reversed, and we could be looking at Holty. We could be looking at some real sort of prolonged success, depending on how obviously he does change things around. But yeah, obviously, if you are watching live on YouTube, X, Facebook, whichever platform you're on, get involved in the comments. Send us your questions, send us your thoughts on potential new head coach John Harbaugh, because obviously it's not fully confirmed yet, but it's almost confirmed. And so yeah, let us know your thoughts on him, what you think of him, and don't forget to like the episode as well. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. And for audio listeners, how many stars they give us, Aaron?
5 stars.
A 5-star review, a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice would be beautiful. But there is only one place we're going to start, and there's only one real sort of thing we're going to talk about this week, and that is the impending announcement that John Harbaugh will become the New York Football Giants head coach in the coming hours.
I didn't quite hear. Who did you say?
John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh, yeah, that's right. John Harbaugh will become the head coach of the New York Football Giants in the next few hours, next day maybe. We kind of expect it to be announced imminently, really. So we're all sort of furiously keeping an eye on X for it to be dropped. But that's last week's pod. We were going to discuss head coaching candidates, but shortly after we came off air, the Ravens announced that they'd made the decision to fire him after 18 years with the organization. And it changed the Giants' plan straight away. Although according to reports, there was apparently some preparation work that had been done that said if Harbaugh was to be fired, he'd be the top target. And I want this in mind, the Giants, obviously they got candidates in the door. They became the first team to satisfy the Rooney Rule, meaning they were the first team to be able to make an offer to sign a head coach, and they went all out to sign him as well. Chris Mara met him in Baltimore on Sunday, securing that sort of first in-person interview. Big Blue Nation spent the entire day on Wednesday refreshing Twitter feeds, sparked by Doug Analytics, who noticed the flight schedule of John Tisch, his private jet heading into and returning from Baltimore. And after meeting everyone, including Jackson Dart, at the Giants facility, Diana Rossini reported at around 10 p.m. UK time that Harbaugh was due to fly back to Baltimore in preparation for an interview today with Tennessee. But it appears that he never got on that plane. He did get on the plane! And instead he went for dinner, possibly joined by family, with an agreement in principle to become the next head coach, with a rumoured 5-year, $100 million contract being offered, which is pretty good money. We're going to potentially make him the highest paid head coach in league history. So it's a big one.
We have to give a quick shout out as well to Joe Sheehan. I know he's a very divisive figure amongst fans, but to have all the ducks in a row to be able to pull the trigger on this as soon as possible, you have to sort of give him credit. I think his big influence in making sure that this could get done as quickly as possible, and not allowing John Harbaugh to go anywhere else to be tempted.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he's agreed to in terms of giving up. I can't imagine he's going to be, have the head coach now reporting to him and having decisions. But if you think about Joe Shane and your record and where your standing is, you're out of a job if you don't agree to some kind of change. The other thing that Joe Shane, perhaps we didn't give him credit for at the time, but we were nodding it to Daboll, for Daboll to say, well, I want Dart, that's what I want. Well, actually, if you stand back and look at this from a head coach coming in point of view, even if we say that Joe Shane wasn't high on Dart and he was higher on other talent members like Shedeur Sanders or something like that, he backed his coach and got his coach the guy that he wanted. Mm-hmm. So from a guy coming in, that goes, well, if I can trust this guy to, go with my gut feeling and get the guy that I want, then that's actually a positive. So and I know it doesn't fix everything and thing, but another thing that Joe Shane's done, he has turned around one of the members of the podcast, and he couldn't make it on night because he's working, but Shane has gone from Mr. Fire Joe Shane to
classic.
That for the audio listeners, Aaron's just brought up two pictures. The first picture being a picture of Shane with a penguin head on and saying "Fire Joe Shane, Newt Newt." The second image is a picture of Shane smiling with a T-shirt on that says "Joe Shane's #1 fan." That picture will be going up on our social networks after this show, so you'll be able to see that on there. So Shane is a man of his word. He says he will not badmouth Joe Shane this year if this happens, and if it does, and obviously it's likely to happen. So he's not going to badmouth Joe Shane, and we will hold him to that, and he will hold himself to that as well. So let's see how long that lasts. Let's see how long that lasts. But yeah, I just think, you mentioned about obviously about Dabes, and the reports are saying that Dabes had spoken to him as well, and spoken to Harbaugh about the team and recommended the Giants to him, which is class of him because he didn't have to do that. He's just been relieved of his job as head coach of the Giants. But to recommend him to somebody else is quite a good move, and it kind of shows his professionalism as well a little bit, and shows that he doesn't hold any hard feelings towards the team because, let's face it, he just didn't get the results.
Classy move.
Yeah, very classy move. Very classy move. Keith, it was a nice T-shirt, and maybe we should get some of them made up as well. Maybe we'll give him one in person. Actually, I'll give him one to wear. I think with some bits about Joe Shane, John Harbaugh, age 63 becomes the oldest head coach hired by the Giants. Obviously, although Tom Coughlin coached until he was nearly 70, he was younger at the time of hiring than John Harbaugh is. He started with the Eagles under Andy Reid for 9 years as a defensive backs and special teams coordinator. He took the Ravens head coach job in 2008, been there ever since. Led them to 124 record over those 18 years, including 13-11 in the playoffs and that one Super Bowl victory back in 2012, with, I might add, Joe Flacco at quarterback. I mean, granted, he had a pretty good defense with Ray Lewis on there, and plenty of others as well. But the fact that he won, it was the Harbaugh Bowl, wasn't it, in New Orleans, against his younger brother against the Niners, and that was the blackout bowl as well, wasn't it, when they had the blackout after halftime. So writing's on the wall, and he came through and got the job done and earned his ring. 10 of his assistants have gone on to become head coaches in the league as well, notably Gary Kubiak, who won Super Bowl 50 for the Broncos, and Mike McDonald as well, who's led Seattle to a #1 seed in the NFC this year. He's the only head coach in NFL history to win a playoff game in each of his first 5 seasons. And this one, I love this one. He was college roommates with former WCW and WWE superstar Brian Pillman. I love that. I love that.
That is cool.
I think that's a really. I think for those that don't know wrestling, obviously Brian Pillman. I think he tragically passed away quite a few years ago. But yeah, I just thought it's a nice little tidbit, and he used to play football as well. But so yeah, I think there's a lot. We're going to do a lot of talking about Harbaugh tonight, and we probably will do over the coming weeks as well. But obviously, after it was announced last week that he was to be fired by the Ravens, Kev, was he your number one candidate for the head coaching role at the Giants? And if so, why? If not, why not?
I mean, 100%. As soon as there was an inkling that he could be available, he skyrocketed to the top of all the candidate lists. I mean, he's got a championship resume. I mean, you said yourself, 18 years of Baltimore, 180 wins, 12 playoff trips in 18 years. I mean, that's outstanding. That's phenomenal. Obviously he had that Super Bowl title. He just brings like instant stability. He's a proven leader. We've had multiple failed first-time head coaches. So we were crying out for someone to come in as a head coach, a CEO. And it was like a perfect storm, a perfect sort of situation of what the Giants needed. We didn't need an up-and-coming hotshot OC, DC. We needed a CEO head coach. And for him to be available at the perfect time that we needed him was just phenomenal. He does develop quarterbacks. You said it yourself. He went out there and he won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, more of a statue, stand there and throw it quarterback. And he's also won games with Lamar Jackson. Do you know what I mean? Who's a mobile quarterback. So he shows he's adaptable. He doesn't go after one type of QB. So he could be a perfect mentor for Jackson Dart. And I love it as well because it's a statement hire. The Giants needed to be aggressive, needed to go after the best candidate, and they went and they got him, and they all out, sent the house, to try and make this happen. You said yourself, Tish brought his private plane, flew him in, and they did everything in their power to make sure this would happen. And one of the things I love as well is it's a culture fit. Do you know what I mean? He plays physical football. He's disciplined. His identity matches what we want as an organization. And with the young core, the roster that we have, he will look at that and that will excite him. It's low risk, high impact. Do you know what I mean? He's a veteran coach. He brings credibility. He will have a certain level of control, as we talked about Joe Sheehan. I think Joe Sheehan is actually quite well respected around the league, and a lot of people I've read that a lot of people around the league know that he likes to collaborate. He's more of a collaborative GM than sort of look, I pick the players, you coach them. He doesn't really work like that. He's more, so I think it's a really good match. So talk about fit and the person coming in. He was a no-brainer that we had to go get this guy, and everyone, John Mara, Chris Mara, Steve Tisch, Joe Sheehan, everyone went all out, like I said, to make this happen. And Giants being the Giants, we were all a bit we can't have nice things. This isn't going to happen. And sure enough, we pulled it out of the bag. And it's just, if you're a Giants fan now, you are ecstatic with this hire.
Yeah, Aaron, do you agree? Was he your number one candidate?
Yeah, I think it's really funny because obviously last week when we had the podcast, it was the day before he was fired. So we knew Kevin Stefanski was available. I think, we at the end of the podcast, we sort of touched on who we thought. I think Shane might have been Shane's question, one word, who would you pick? And obviously Harbaugh wasn't in that list because he wasn't available at the time. But we were split between kind of a veteran coach in Mick McCarthy, Mike McCarthy,
McCarthy,
and or going new and going for a Chris Shula type. I think is a couple of us said Chris Shula, and that's what I think. None of the guys that were available were exactly what we were looking for. So there's obviously feels like a record number. Half the league feel like they're looking for head coaches, right? So there's going to be some head coaches that come in this time, and someone is going to take. There's not that many veteran coaches, as we talked about last week, and one or two of them might make it and might make a career out of it, might be back on the market in 2 years' time. One of the young guns might be the next Sean McVay and be the guy. But I don't think the Giants could take the risk of taking a flyer on a young gun and hope that they get the McVay this time. They've tried a few times on first-time head coaches, tried a few different routes and this, that, and the other, and it wasn't there. Factor into the current situation with ownership and John Mara's kind of illness and this, that, and the other. We needed a leader for the organization. The guy coming in, and John Harbaugh is the only guy that was available. I think you mentioned it. There's a grown-up in the building now, right? He is the leader of the organization, not just the head coach. And that's the key difference in this time. I think that's why they've put up the money that they're going to put up. It's likely to be the highest ever, biggest contract for a head coach ever. It's going to certainly be up there with Andy Reid's contract with the Chiefs, and the Giants were in a position where they had to do it. Like, this is the guys of this quality don't come available very often. Right? This kind of reputation, they retire. They before they kind of look at Tomlin's probably going to go off and do TV, and he's not going to coach, and he probably will never coach again. Same with kind of Bill Cowher when he left the Steelers previously. Sean Payton's maybe the other one, but he was traded. The Broncos gave up a first and a third, I think, to get it. And do we really want to be? Are we in a position that can give up that sort of capital for a coach? So, yeah, the second that he was fired, we've had fun with kickers this season. No one's done more for us than Tyler Luke did, missing that kick against the Steelers, right? Because
let's face it, he's our new favorite kicker.
Yeah,
he deserves a place in the Ring of Honor.
And if you go one step further, I think I put a tweet out earlier today. You've got the kind of 3 seasons in a row. You've got the Flowers fumble at the half-yard line against the Chiefs. You've got the Andrews drop in the end zone against the Bills that have ended their season, and you've got a Tyler Luke missed field goal that's ended the season. All of which, apparently the coach has lost it, where 3 plays go the other way, and we could be talking about a 2-time, 3-time Super Bowl champion coach that wouldn't be available on the market, right? So yes, this is great news for the Giants. Are there issues that a CEO type head coach brings? Yeah, one thing that we haven't had a lot of in the last few years is losing coordinators to head coach jobs, because that's the thing with a CEO head coach. He's not a play caller. So immediately that kind of puts the pressure onto your finding good quality OC and DC. So what John Harbaugh's always done, he's had really high quality. I think we said 10 of his have gone on to be head coaches. I think when he's hired a bunch of them that he's hired, they were head coaches when he's hired them. They've come off head coaches and he's hired them to be coordinators. And we've seen ourselves, some guys can be a really good coordinator. Maybe they haven't got it as a head coach. He's the sort of guy that's going to bring them in. He's going to get the best out of them for the team. He's adapted his style. He's not afraid to fire a guy if he isn't up to scratch. When have we seen that a coach isn't up to firing a guy that's not up to scratch? Well, we were all there this time last season saying, why is the DC still here? So I think he just brings so many qualities that think, will this mean that we're winning Super Bowls in the playoffs next year? Maybe not. It will really put the truth on next year. Will really put truth on ownership and the kind of way they run their organization, and whether they are kidding themselves, whether this roster is up to quality. We'll find out. The head coach and the coaching staff won't be the excuse this next year, right? No. But we're not asking to be made from a 4-win team and a 3-win team and a worst record over the last 5 years there with the Jets.
And let's face it, those 4 wins two of them come in the last two games that were irrelevant wins.
Exactly. We have not been relevant in December since that one season with Daywall, and then in that 6-7 year period, it was McAdoo was the last time that we were relevant in December, right? So if we become relevant over this next 2 to 3 years, and we're relevant and we're competing in the playoffs, maybe we'll win an NFC East. Maybe we fall out in the divisional round. But crikey, I'll take the divisional round and meaningful football in December at any point now. And maybe Harbaugh doesn't lead us to a Super Bowl, but maybe we move into that place. But the coordinator thing is going to be, something that we might have to deal with. That the guys that are coming and work for him know that they're looking for a head coach job somewhere else, and we might have to deal with year-on-year replacements, and maybe the next one isn't quite as good as the last one, or the players have to change a little bit to fit the scheme and that kind of thing. That's something that we're gonna see. But what a problem to have, eh? Oh, we played so well that our coaches got stolen from us because we won so many games.
Yep, exactly that, exactly. And I think you touched on being relevant. That's kind of all we want really at this point, is just to be relevant, not just necessarily in December, but just in the season. During the regular season, let's be relevant. Let's be in the mix. Even if it gets to the end of the season and we finish 9-8, and we miss out on the playoffs by virtue of a head-to-head record or whatever. We just miss out on that 7 seed or something like that. I'm not going to be too disappointed because we were relevant during the season. The fact that we've been so poor over the last 3 years, and we've won games that were irrelevant, essentially. Like I said, it would just be nice to sort of flip that script a little bit and start to build those blocks into place, start to put the right pieces in the right places. And like I said, if we don't, make the playoffs next season or whatever, as long as we see that improvement from where we've been the last 3 years, as long as we see that beginning to turn around, that shift in the organization, that shift in luck as well. We've had some bad luck, admittedly, but a lot of that bad luck has come down to, mismanagement of clock, mismanagement of games. And that's one thing that Harbaugh doesn't do. He doesn't mismanage games. He manages the clock well. He's great at situational football. He's an expert at situational football. And I think for me, he fits into this organization perfectly. He's a future Hall of Fame coach, granted, but he's consistent and he's built a strong culture in the locker room. I think the AFC North in-season Hard Knocks last year, go back and watch it and you'll see what John Harbaugh is like in the locker room, in the meeting rooms. He's consistent, he's firm, but he's fair. And I just think that having this opportunity to start putting these blocks in the right places is only a good thing for the future. Yeah, well, obviously it'd be nice to win now, right? But also, I'd rather be relatively successful over the next 5 years whilst Harbaugh is the head coach. Let's not forget as well, in 5 years' time, he's going to be 68 years old. Is he going to want to continue being a head coach, getting that close to 70? Maybe not. So he might call it a day after 5 years. But at least then, after those 5 years, we potentially have the right piece, or most of the right piece in the right places. And then, like you said, he's going to have good coordinators. So maybe one of those coordinators can naturally step into that head coaching role. But also, he's built consistently competitive teams across different eras, different quarterbacks in Baltimore as well. With Flacco, he built that offense around Lamar Jackson. He didn't put Lamar Jackson into his offense. They brought in Lamar Jackson, and he put the pieces in place around him. And he's now got the opportunity to do that with Jackson Dart and the core of young talent we have on this roster, not just on the offense, but on the defense as well. So, there's so much potential for him and for this team that it's, like I said, it's just really exciting to sort of think about. So yeah, we've got to temper our expectations a little bit, and let's see what moves he makes first. But there's a lot to be excited about in the coming years with him as head coach.
But what a wild ride the last 24 hours have been, right? Let's just take that
Unreal.
as a giant fan, right? It was probably the best ride we've been on, from that first Doug Analytics tweet to say, check out this, about 5 o'clock UK time it was, check out this thing. And for the next 5 hours, I was in there. Craig's news jobs made him a bit busier, so I was learning how to make graphics and kind of get prepared for, are we going to have to go live because of the news drops, and Shane was on night shift and giving us updates overnight while we were asleep. Got to kind of 10 o'clock last night, and I think Diana Rossini kind of said, he's going to fly back to Baltimore and he's going to do his interview tomorrow, and it was like everyone calmed down. And then it was like, 2 hours later, it was maybe not so fast. There's something else come in, and this, that, and the other. And then I think just before 5 in the morning UK time, it's a done deal. And
I was just about to leave home for work this morning, and sort of reading through the group chat. I was like, if it happens while I'm driving, like I hope it doesn't happen while I'm driving. And Shane was like, "I'll call you, don't worry." I was like, "You fucking better." and it hasn't happened yet, but
like for a lot of the Giants fans across the pond, it was like they stayed up until midnight, and they thought, it was all done. Went to sleep, and they only found out sort of 5 hours after us in the UK when they were waking up. They went to bed thinking that maybe the chance had gone, and kind of it does seem to feel like that, some of the leadership, some of the ownership have really played a blinder. It doesn't look like it was a two-way. It wasn't like it was just a one-way chase either. It looks like John Harbaugh was really keen into the Giants. He apparently reached out to Peyton Manning to get Eli Manning's phone number to talk about the Giants, to talk about the ownership, to talk about the team, to talk about Jackson Dart. He apparently reviewed all the tape of all the quarterbacks of the prospective teams, and there seems to be quite a few salty Titans fans out there thinking Cam Ward's a better quarterback than Jackson Dart. But the best.
Just on that, Brian Daboll is going to Tennessee to interview for their job, so
Yeah. So
he might have more luck in Tennessee. So,
but it even started apparently, firing Daboll early got them into thinking what the head coaching market's going to look like. And they even ranked the guys that weren't available. So they knew Harbaugh might be available. They knew Tomlin might be available. They knew Stefanski might be available. And they kind of went and sat down and worked out a plan of what they needed to do. They knew they had to clear the Rooney Rule before they offer any kind of contract out there. So they got the guys in quick.
For those that don't know, Aaron, explain the Rooney Rule.
Yeah, so it was put in quite a while ago, and maybe it's not quite as fit for purpose as it used to be, but essentially to improve the diversity in the coaching ranks, to make it more representative to what they were on the field, they added a rule where you had to interview a diverse candidate. So it used to only be one, now it's moved to two. They've now added female candidates into the mix as well, and they've now expanded it down to offensive and defensive coordinators. So before you can even offer a contract, you have to get to that stage where you've had satisfied interviews from people outside of your building for those roles. So Mike Kafka was getting interviews last year for head coach positions, and he counts from his descent. He wouldn't count for the Giants because an internal hire. There's debate of whether it's worth it, because again, in this situation, there is no other person qualified in the same way as John Harbaugh, right? So if John Harbaugh wants to sign for your team, no one's going to say that. I agree. The rest of the market, we should give everyone a chance, bring them in, have those kind of meetings. The Giants got it cleared before the weekend. They were the only team going into Wednesday that had that cleared, so that you could offer a coach. So if anyone had interviewed John Harbaugh before that point, they wouldn't have been able to do what they're and set Cam Scatterby on him to prevent him from leaving the building. They could have literally said that, so they were there to make the offer. So it's it's something that has seen more diverse head coaches in the league, and it has worked to some degree. Whether it's still valid in the modern game, maybe it should be down at lower coaching levels to bring more people as coordinators, because it's really, we all know, if you're not a coordinator, you're not getting a head coach job. So actually, it being at the coordinator level rather than the head coach level might actually be the right fit, because actually, if you need a bigger pool of people to pick from for that head coach role, and it's a meritocracy ultimately, right? The best guys are going to move up to that kind of thing. So it's really really important that they got themselves, or the Giants really did. I think it's really important for us to complained about ownership and everything that's going on, and is John Mara on the pulse? Apparently John Mara did every in-person interview. Apparently Stefanski was really was really impressive, and actually if John Mara didn't come available, they would have got him. And if John Mara wasn't on the market, there's an argument that Stefanski was the only coach with the kind of pedigree that we were looking for from that kind of thing. So I think it was really impressive. Obviously there's no salary cap linked to head coach, so the ownership have kind of had to get their checkbook out, but the fact that they were willing to do it and weren't going to try it again on the kind of thing. Everyone realizes it's time to make the Giants relevant again. The last 24 hours, we have been relevant. Yes, we'll have to match off-field performance. We can't be the off-season champions again. We have to start doing it in season. But my God, Giants are relevant.
Yeah, man, exactly. And I think with Stefanski as well, it kind of obviously the rumor is he's potentially going to be interviewed for the OC role in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
So why would he's going to be one of the best offensive coordinator candidates out there. I mean, I know you guys are going to talk about him in a minute, but it's like, why would you not potentially want to look at bringing him in?
And we sort of, that there are going to be some teams are going to end up with a guy they don't want as head coach, because you've got to have a head coach, and all the good candidates are gone, and you're going to be having to take a punt on a guy that you perhaps don't really want. And maybe we were in that when we hired Joe Judge, for example. Maybe we were in
Don't talk about Joe Judge.
So we were left without the really top candidate that we wanted, and
we really had to scrape the barrel with Joe Judge, didn't we?
Yeah. So whereas, but you're when you come into that kind of scheme, and maybe just to go on a little tangent, I know Shane's not here, but a little tangent.
Shane would approve. It's fine.
So, the only way I can reference this is, my very first year playing American football, we had a head coach. We were a new team because we were a B team for the Bristol Aztecs. And I come in. I really liked the head coach. I was a rookie. The head coach taught me everything I knew. We went 0-9-1 as the team in my first season. We didn't win a single game, right? So the club took a decision to kind of change what they were doing with the B team, and they brought in a guy to be the head coach of the team that was a retired Aztecs player, played for GB back in the days when kind of that was more impressive than it is now, or it was when I started. And then he brought in a different culture. Practice was at a completely different level straight away, right? We were practicing at a level that was harder than any game I'd ever played in. When we get to our game, we started winning games, and we went 8-2 that season and got to the playoffs, right? And it started in that first practice, in that culture off the field, right? Now that coach has just won the national championship as the Aztecs head coach this season, and beating the London teams for the first time in many years. So he had the pedigree clearly to bring a program up to that level. that's what we're hoping we're going to get with John Harbaugh, a guy that can come in, change the culture from day one. I think Keith's mentioned in the chat, we've got a lot of average people that have been able to get by. That's not going to be acceptable anymore. If you either step up and become the guy that you can be and fulfill your potential, or you're out when someone else is coming in. And that's what we're going to have moving forward. And that's really, really important to, from what I think there's been a few interviews. Jameis this week, yesterday on New Heights, saying we need a coach that's going to be consistent every single day. You're going to get that. You said yourself, look at the in-season hard knocks from last season, and you can see it straight away. So, it's really exciting to have, this kind of turnaround for the team. It's not just about John Harbaugh. It's about the commitment ownership have shown. It's about the effort that everyone's made. It's the now moving forward. It's the external investment in this. Well, I'm the top head coach candidate. I could have gone to any team that I wanted, and I chose Jackson Dart. I chose because we know the head coach quarterback pairing is so important. As a head coach, tied to the quarterback. So he said, I want to stake my career, my legacy on Jackson Dart. I think he's the best prospect that's out there. And this roster is the best prospect around me. And, that's an endorsement of what we've seen on the people.
It says a massive amount. It says a massive amount that a coach of his caliber wants to come to a team that's won, 9 games in the last 3 years? So it speaks volumes, Just that comment that Keith did make, he said that obviously there's no such things as luck. We've had average people making average decisions and bad players making bad plays. There won't be anywhere for that kind of person to hide now. I absolutely agree. I think it's a great point, Keith. They won't have another time because...
one thing I want to add, one thing I want to add, before we move on, is I heard something today that John Harbaugh reached out to Giants position coaches to get a feel for the roster, about the players that are on the roster. That type of detail is fantastic. He shows, to what Aaron said about he's investing in this team. He's got a reputation. As, again, like Aaron said, his legacy is on the line, and he come and he made sure that he's making the right decision, and he chose this team. So, how can you not be excited going forward?
Exactly that. He's been in Baltimore for 18 years, obviously with the same owner, the same standards, and the fact that they've just never been irrelevant. I said they've had 3 losing seasons in 18 years, and that's just music to my ears, absolutely. But I mean, we've obviously touched a little bit on the culture and that he brings in a very strong culture to the team. But Kev, what do you think, or what do you see the first sort of major cultural change that he will bring in?
I think holding people to account. I think making sure that everyone's accountable for their actions. He might not be as strict as Tom Coughlin, but there's definitely that sort of a CEO. He's a player's coach, but they won't take the piss out of him. Do you know that way? He'll be very, very respected. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the biggest thing. That he's going to come in as a CEO and earn the respect. He's earned the respect from his previous roles in the job in the league, but I think you'll see accountability is a big thing for me.
Yeah, and I think the best leaders, they don't have to force you to do something. They lead. They might lead. You don't want to let them down, and you'll run through walls for them. Maybe literally if you're 44.
Yeah, he would. He would put his head down and just run through that wall, wouldn't he?
I'm the juggernaut.
Yeah, but if John Harbaugh's been, had coached the Giants for the last 10 years, let's say, with the same level of talent we've got had on our roster, would we be a consistently relevant franchise, or do you think the success in Baltimore that he's had is more about the roster construction than it is about coaching? What do you reckon, Aaron?
So I think there's definitely a link, right? So the roster plays a part of it. There's no way you come here without the quarterback in this scenario. So the roster absolutely is whether he would have been in there informing, making better decisions. If would he have been able to turn around stop some of those terrible Gettleman decisions? Would we have
Would he have been able to develop Daniel Jones?
Exactly. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the right reality is we won't know, but that's not the challenge as well. He's coming into a roster that maybe outside of the building and outside of fans like ourselves who really do take time to understand the roster, who we've got there, these, that, and the other. Maybe they think, oh yeah, Jackson Dart, the quarterback that's had 5 concussions. I've seen that mentioned a few times on Twitter. He had 1.
Rubbish. He's had 1.
How many Giants games have you watched?
Yeah, come on.
Obviously, Malik Neighbors is there was one of the best receivers in the league. Hopefully comes back fully healthy at the start of the season. A dynamic running back room. The best left tackle in the league, even if he was shunned for All-Pro, first team All-Pro.
Shocking.
Yeah.
And then look at the defense as well, right? Brian Burns had a season.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter. Come on. I mean, an exciting defense to think about as well.
But the difference is that 53rd man on the roster. Would someone like Evan Neal or Deontay Banks or Jalen Hyatt be kept around? Would they continue to underperform year after year? Would they even get drafted in the first place if there's character concerns or there's these things missing? And that might be the difference, because as we know, it is a full 53-man plus 12, 15-man practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
Every single spot is really important and may need to contribute in a season.
Yeah, it'll be those 3 players you mentioned. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with them moving forward with John Harbaugh. What do you reckon, Kev? Do you think it's more about the roster, or do you think it's more about coaching? Do you think it's kind of half and half?
I think it's coaching, to be honest, a little bit more on the coaching side. I think, let's face it, there's 32 teams in the NFL. There's no bad, let's be realistic, there's no bad players in the NFL, right? They're all good players. I think coaching and play calling, strategy, I think accounts for a hell of a lot. I think it's the differences between teams, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, you're going to have teams that aren't particularly built that well and other teams that have really a much better roster. Of course you do. But I think coaching and strategy, I think, is huge. If you have a golf in that, I think usually the coaching will win the game out.
Yeah, and I think, you could have, like I said, every single player on that roster has come through the college ranks. Well, most of them come through the college ranks, and they are at the sort of the top end of those that have been on those teams, because so many players that play in college don't ever make it to the pros, right? So they're professional athletes, so they are good to start off with. But then, like you said, that development throughout their career definitely comes down to coaching, I believe. And I think having Harbaugh as head coach could do wonders for players like Jackson Dart, for Malik Neighbors, for Cam Scatterboo, for all the other young core of talent that we have, plus the vets as well, because it'll be nice to have someone like Darius Slayton play under a veteran head coach and potentially elevate his game, and just build that offense around the pieces you have, rather than put the offense that you want on to the team that you have and it not really work. You know what I mean? Before we do move on to the coordinator candidates, I just want to bring up a comment that Keith put in the chat. He said the IT team at the Giants have created an email account for him. As an ex-IT staffer, that doesn't happen unless it's a done deal. So on that note, welcome to the New York Football Giants, John Harbaugh. I mean, if he's got an email address, it's a done deal. I absolutely agree with that. And also this one, I love this as well. Keith, keep them coming, because there's a few bangers you put in there this evening. The bus shipping players out of MetLife will be a double-decker. Get on the bus. Get on the bus.
So I'm here. They're creating an email account. Can you just repeat to me your name?
John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh.
You love it. You love to see it. Obviously, Harbaugh, he has a special teams background. He is that CEO head coach, like I said, we mentioned. So doesn't call plays. So coordinator position might be a little more important than under our recent head coach. So who have you guys got your eye on for both offensive and defensive coordinators?
I'll throw out offensive coordinator.
Okay.
I mean, it's highly touted out there on all social media now that Todd Monken, his offensive coordinator from Baltimore, will come with him. He was the OC of Baltimore for 3 seasons, averaged 3,500 passing yards, 2,800 rushing yards per season, 30 passing touchdowns, 23 rushing touchdowns, 28 points per game, averaging those. So, a very good mixture, pass, run, exactly what we kind of want to do, build the run to be able to pass. He's got chemistry with Harbaugh. Like I said, he's worked together 3 successful seasons. He's got track record of success. Like I just said, he also went, he was a coach for Georgia, back-to-back national titles. And that's sort of significant as well, because it shows that he can build an elite offense fast. Because with the college, you have a new roster pretty much every year in modern college football. So it shows he can build a fast-paced offense really, really quickly. His offense is a QB-friendly one, especially for mobile quarterbacks. A great fit if he came in to develop Jackson Dart. Under him, Lamar Jackson, in his first season, Lamar Jackson finished second in the MVP voting, and then the year after he won it. I'm not saying Jackson Dart's going to go on to have that success, but it definitely helps. I mean, he's a physical, his play style is physical, run first approach sort of aligns with what we want to do. Like I said before, get the run game going to play off, to build off play action, and then get the pass game going. The reunion between Harbaugh and Monken, it brings again that stability, continuity. They have a shared vision. They're very close. He's a veteran presence. He very rarely uses 11 personnel. His lowest 11 personnel in the NFL, so it shows that he loves a fullback, loves 2 tight end sets. So again, we can see sort of like building on that run game, get that run game going to be able to exploit the passing game. So I think it'd be a really good fit.
Nice, Aaron. Who have you got your eye on for OC?
Yeah, so I gone for the dream team, and he's posted out. I was apparently quoted saying that he gets head coach invites, but he doesn't want to be a head coach for a bad team. He'd rather be an OC for a good team and look for that opportunity. And in line with the kind of method of taking a former head coach and making him your OC, how about Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator of the New York Giants? Coming from the Shanahan tree, and if you think about the most exciting offenses in the league, a lot of them come from the Shanahan tree. And the thing you get with Mike McDaniel is that kind of really creative run game. He'll get guys in space and get them open with scheme and let them really make things. So a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson would feast in a Mike McDaniel's offense. Yeah.
You mean Wendell, yeah?
Rendell, yeah. Rendell, yeah. So I think apparently he's in the Buccaneers building right now, and
he's interviewing for their OC role, isn't he?
What I'm hearing is they're playing the don't let him leave kind of. They've sent the Pirates squad, I guess, to lock him up in the ship and not let him out of the town, but. If he makes it out, and obviously it sounds like there might be a done deal around, Monken coming in, but this would be like another alternative. Monken's also got a head coach interview with the Browns.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a chance he takes a head coach role rather than he's an OC. He might not like the Browns' opportunity given their quarterback situation, and he might want to wait another year and to look for a better opportunity. But peak Miami offense in 2023 when he was the head coach, but
Incredible.
29.2 points per game. I'll have some of that. 7,000 total yards in the season, so that's 412 yards a game. Have some of that.
Yes, please.
61 offensive touchdowns.
Sign me up.
Obviously, in San Francisco, they were consistently the top 5 run attack. He was there to help Deebo Samuel's break out of his 14.05 receiving yards. We know Deebo Samuel was also used as a runner and that kind of thing as well. So I think he's one of these guys where maybe you don't want him leading your franchise. He's definitely the tech bro type nerd.
I love that he's such a nerd as well.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
But do you want that guy leading the organization, or do you want that guy just running the offense? And I think just running the offense.
Run the offense, mate.
All day. Yeah, I'm not sure I want him as a head coach, but I want him scheming up things. I want him and Scatterboo and Dart, scheming up crazy things. Maybe they can do a Twitch stream afterwards and play Madden or whatever the WWE game Scatterboo was playing the other day. They can do all of that. But that's the type of guy I think we will, even if we don't go for someone like that this season, there's obviously the expectation that Monken might come in next season and might get a head coach opportunity the season after. But this is the type of coordinator that we can expect to be bringing in on the regular moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's more likely to be Todd Monken, in all honesty, but I absolutely wouldn't say no to Mike McDaniel. Incidentally, as well, I just thought, what, let's have a look at Todd Monken's Wikipedia page just to see, his history. I'll read you the first line. Todd Monken is an American professional football coach who is currently the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants.
Yeah, they love Wikipedia.
I'm like, all right, okay then. But obviously, he was a quarterback in college, and he's been a coach for 37 years. So he's got plenty of experience in coaching.
Seen it all in the NFL.
Exactly. I mean, he's obviously went through coaching in college. Eastern Michigan, Louisiana Tech, Oklahoma State, LSU. Then coached receivers at the Jags for 3 years. Back to Oklahoma State, Southern Miss head coach, and then obviously went to Tampa Bay, Cleveland. Went back to college with Georgia, and then has been the Ravens OC for the last 3 years. But he's got plenty of pedigree there. So I think if you're Harbaugh, do you stick with someone that's tried and trusted and has been your right-hand man for the last 3 years? Or do you go for a young, exciting nerd who will look at every single little tiny detail on that offense? There's other options out there as well. There's plenty of other options out there, but I think those two do stand out. And I said it's probably more likely to be Todd Monken, but I absolutely wouldn't say no to Mike McDaniel at all. He's young as well. That helps. He's 42, so he's a young, passionate.
And what better way to learn
coach.
to? Because obviously you want to be head coach again. Why not come
Exactly
in and learn under Harbaugh for a few years?
Exactly that. It'd be great for him as well. Let's look at DCs then. So, who's your top DC coordinator candidate, Kev?
So I was initially going to talk about Antonio Pierce. That sort of bit of nostalgia and stuff. But the more I looked into the candidates, one that stood out to me was Jim Leonhard. He's currently the Broncos DB coach, pass game coordinator, assistant head coach. He was at Wisconsin 2017-22, Broyles Award finalist. He had multiple top 10 national defenses when he was there. 13 defensive players drafted. Like I said, he's the assistant head coach and pass game coordinator. He
played in the league as well, didn't he?
He played the league for 10 years as a safety.
Yeah.
he's got Denver, was it a top 10 pass defense in the league? He's got a modern scheme, very aggressive, disguise heavy pressures, a lot of zone match concepts. Basically, he's got a defense for sort of any type of new modern age NFL offenses. And one of the reasons why I like him as well, because it kind of addresses like our recent struggles in the pass defense, especially the communication. And I think we've actually got good DBs, and I think someone like him coming in would sort of elevate them and get them playing to the potential that we kind of all hoped they would play to when this past season started. And like you said as well, he's been in the league for 10 years as safety. He's developed good DBs. I mean, look at Pat Surtain. He's an absolute class player.
Defensive player of the year, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and he's got that leadership as well. Like I said, he was an interim head coach at Wisconsin. He's a respected teacher. He's a culture builder. So he's got that aspect to his game as well. I think he'd just be a really good high upside hire. If you went with someone like Todd Monken, the 37 years experience, like you said, in the league, sort of that more old hand with John Harbaugh, then go for someone like Jim Leonhard, who's a bit more of an up and coming sort of like new kid on the block, so to speak. I just think, I think he's proven, he's NFL ready, and he come in and quickly stabilize this Giants defense and sort of like make us a strong defense, especially at the back end, because we really need help, sort of like bring in the safeties and the cornerbacks along.
I really like Jim Leonhard. I think his DB unit at Denver is exceptionally strong, and I think he'd fit really well into the DC role with the Giants for sure. I would be excited about that hire, and for him it'd be first time as a coordinator as well. So it'd bring that sort of, you obviously have an experienced coordinator on the offense, maybe have a bit of new young blood on the defense, because we've got a lot of excitement on the defense as well. Aaron, your DC candidate, you've got your eye on.
Yeah, and I have to say, I probably will like Jim Leonhard's scheme much more than I like this guy's scheme. But again, in that same mold of bringing a former head coach in and let them try and rebuild themselves. So the former Arizona Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon is a guy that I would look to bring in. So obviously he spent a lot of his time. He's only been in the Cardinals since 2023. And went 15-36 with them, but obviously they've had all sorts of issues on the offense and the quarterback and this kind of thing. They haven't been fantastic in defense, but they did allow in this first season they held opponents under 20 points a game. But obviously when he was in Philly, that's when he kind of gained his notoriety, won the Super Bowl. As the DC, and he's much more of a bend don't break defense. And we've seen how when that goes wrong, how frustrating it is to see that kind of bend don't break. He does tend to play a bit of too high, lighter box, but it's not a simple defense. He does a lot of coverage discussions, so you'll see split safety looks. So quarters, cover four. Some of the kind of Vic Fangio principles that you see, late movement just before the QB, just to get them to hold that ball that extra second. And then it's not no blitz, but he will blitz at precisely the time. So you'll see a lot of four-man rush and come out and thingy. But he's a guy that knows the NFC East, having been in the division previously. And I think it's a sort of guy and talent that you can bring in and kind of go, well, we know we're going to get a high quality candidate. We know we're going to get a defense. Scheme's not my favorite scheme. I have to admit, I prefer a much more aggressive scheme. However, how did we look against the Eagles in 2023 and 2022? So it's one of those kind of things. I think we've got the pass rushers and we've got the defensive line that we should be able to get away with a four-man front getting home, Abdul Carter stepping up his pressures, Brian Burns stepping up his pressures. if the QBs hold the ball that little bit longer because they're confused by the coverage scheme, that's the type of guy you can bring in. But again, that kind of head coach guy coming back into the DC, again, something that again, if we don't see it now, something that we may see in a few years' time when our successful DC, because we've just won the Super Bowl, gets poached by another team to be a head coach.
Yeah, very true. I think Gannon's he's definitely a candidate. I think he hasn't had great success in Arizona, but then Arizona haven't been the best football team over the last 3 years, regardless. I don't necessarily think that would have changed much because of coaching. But I think one thing that concerns me a little bit about Gannon was the incident that happened beginning of the season just gone, where he threw a punch at one of his players on the sideline, and it was like, as you do, because obviously it shows that he's passionate, but do we really want any sort of drama or anything like that come into the team when we've had our fair share of drama and shit over the last 10 years?
Someone said you can take the coach out of Philly, but you can't take the Philly out of the coach.
This is it. But obviously, like his experience of the NFC East would absolutely help. And obviously he was DC for them when they won a Super Bowl, right? So he's got the caliber to be there, be in that position. So it'd be interesting. Obviously, like we'd love to see Antonio Pierce back in New York, right? That goes without saying. And I said Kevin Stefanski as well. Like obviously he's going to be a head coaching candidate, but let's not forget he could potentially be a candidate for a defensive coordinator as well. And no doubt he'll be high on people's lists for that head coaching role. But if anyone's going to talk him out of moving to another head coaching role, it could be Joe Schoen and John Harbaugh. So we'll see what happens with that. But
the other guy worth mentioning around DC as well. There's two. So the in-house guy of Bullen, obviously he's getting a few DC looks around the league. I think the likelihood is they would like to keep him in in his current role, and that would be a kind of handy. Transition, keep him around in the building. The other one is Anthony Weaver as well, is the other guy that I've seen mentioned a few times. And again, another high quality defensive candidate getting head coach looks as well. But a guy that I think is on the short list, a guy that's probably more exciting than maybe the Gannon pick as well. But I just feel like, that head coach stepping down role, team that wants to have culture and leadership. And I know the punching incident, but that kind of, leadership built around in the organization, we know the guy's capable of managing his defensive players and squad and that kind of thing. So, but I'm sure it won't be long before we find out. We do have to go through the Rooney Rule. I don't know that it's not quite as well publicized who's been in the building, who hasn't been in the building. But obviously, when you're hiring a head coach, you don't start bringing in your coordinators in for interviews until a certain line. I don't know if Antonio Pierce was, covered both a DC and a head coach interview, or whether he has to come in for a second interview for it to count as two interviews. I don't know, but some of the reasoning, some of the thing that you'll see is we'll have to bring some candidates in to, even if Monken's already nailed on as per Wikipedia, there still has to be that process of bringing some candidates through for interview. And there is a certain value to just going for an interview, right? If you're looking to step up to a new role, going for an interview at that level is not necessarily
experience. Absolutely.
So I'm sure we'll see some candidates come in, even if they think they're not going to get the role.
Yeah, obviously with Jim Leonard, obviously being currently with the Broncos. Was it he's with the Broncos? Yeah, he's with the Broncos, isn't he? Obviously because they are still in the playoffs. Obviously, there wouldn't be any interviews happening until afterwards.
Earliest anyone can interview is Monday, I think, and then regardless of whether they're in or out. But I think if you're in,
it's in the run up to championship weekend, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's video. It'll be video only, likely if you're still in. If you're out, obviously you're free to interview in person. But
exactly. Exactly. And also, you know, when a head coach leaves one team for another, you see sometimes players following. So we thought, let's have a look at the Ravens free agent list, and it is quite a lengthy one. You know, we'll pick out some of the key names. Defensive end Draymond Jones, ranked 65th out of 118 eligible. This is a big one. Safety Alohi Gilman, I think, is potentially a helping hand that we could desperately need in the defensive backfield. DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver. Linebacker Carl Van Noy. At center, I think you've got your eye on him, Aaron. Tyler Linderbaum.
Yeah.
I think he would. I'm sure a lot of Giants fans wouldn't say no to him. Fullback, whether we decide to use a fullback role or not, is remains to be seen. But Patrick Ricard ranks as the second best fullback in the league. I'm not even going to murder that name, but the cornerback that's surname is Awuzie. Awuzie. See, I murdered that surname as well. Ranked 14th out of 113 qualifying. And two tight ends as well, Charlie Kolar and Isaiah Likely as well, I think is one on there as well that's to be sort of looked at. Charlie Kolar ranked 9th out of 75. He's had a 75 receiving grade, 71.5 run block grade, and he's had 40 targets in 4 years. So who stands out on this list as someone you can make that could make an impact on the Giants in 2026?
Got a couple. I'll leave Linderbaum for Aaron there, but one that's a couple of stand out is Isaiah Likely, tight end. I know Johnson has had a little bit of the dropsies this season. He's a productive red zone threat. You know, he's a good complement to Mark Andrews. He only turns 26 this offseason, so he's still young as well. Joseph Nopin, a veteran swing tackle. You know, we know with Andrew Thomas's injury history, although he was pretty injury free this year, having a good swing tackle could be good, because if we do lose Luminor and Bo goes into that right tackle spot, we're going to need a good swing tackle. Played 81 games, 35 starts. It just, like I said, just provides solid cover. Another one I really like as well, because we don't really know what's going to happen with Thibodeau's future or whatever, like, and he's only on the books for next year for 1 year. Look at someone like David Ajabo. You know, he was a former second round pick, really good college player at Michigan, but he's only played 32 games because of injuries. So, you know, you would be able to get him at a decent price, you know, like a low risk, high upside sign-in. You know, he is obviously grew up in Scotland as well, so, like, you know, get that Scottish if Gano goes, you know, go get one Scot out, one Scot in. But also moved over to New Jersey at 17 and played his high school football in New Jersey as well. You mentioned Alohi Gilman as a former Notre Dame player. I'd love to see him come in, but I think he is a starting caliber safety in this league. So I don't know if he'd want to come in when sort of we kind of have Nubin and Holland there. But those are a few of the guys that sort of jump out at me that I think we could bring in.
You mean James Hudson's not the swing tackle, no?
Yeah.
The less said about him, the better, right?
Exactly.
Especially
I mean, Aaron, who stands out on that list for you? Obviously, there's one.
Yeah, so Tyler Linderbaum, I think when he was drafted, I think that pre-draft, certainly I saw him linked to the Giants a few times as a thing, and obviously we didn't go in that direction in that draft, but he is a true center, so it's not like you could bring him in to play at guard. You same with JMS, so this would be a replacement for JMS if you bring him in, which is why I think it doesn't happen. But
they won't let him out the door, will they?
I think he's likely to be franchise tagged before he gets it. They did decline his 5th-year option, but that's because the 5th-year option for the center is incredibly high.
Because it's all offensive line, isn't it? So it's like left tackle money.
So tagging him actually means he gets treated as a center, and he'll play less on the tag than he would as on his 5th-year option. So I don't think he'll be available, but he would be the sort of centre that you would like to bring in, and he's a dominant centre. His passing still needs work, but he's a dominant run centre, and if we want to have that kind of thing. Speaking of the run game, this is where I think we might have some things. So Charlie Kohler is the other tight end, and he is the blocking tight end. I think, like you mentioned, Dan, he is 40 targets in 4 seasons, so that's 10 targets a season, right? He's ranked 9th out of 75 because his blocking grade is so good,
incredible.
We've seen a big push in this season to 3 tight end sets. I think if Munkin becomes the OC, he would played 11 personnel at one of the lowest, so that means we're probably having 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends on the field. We've seen ourselves, we played a lot of 2 or 3 tight ends this last season. Kohler's probably an upgrade over Manhurts as that in that role. He is at Iowa State. So from not Iowa where we see all the big O linemen come from, but Iowa State, and that kind of, I think he would be an interesting pick to bring in. Another option, again, Bellinger is out as a free agent coming out of the season. So Patrick Ricard as a fullback, we've seen Bellinger play that H-back fullback line up in the backfield role. Not every team runs a fullback, which is why he's ranked 2nd of 10 players in the league at that position. But he could be an option to bring in. Again, these are the sort of players, a bit like long snappers, a bit like that get on teams year after year with the same head coach because they trust them, what they can do in specials, what they can do when they come in those things. So can you imagine Cam Scatterboo and having a fullback to run behind? That might be pretty scary. And then with Charlie Kohler as a blocking tight end as well, those movable pieces in that run game.
And the mobile quarterback as well.
And a mobile quarterback as well. So yeah, and potentially a 3-headed backfield with Tracy being in there as can be moved out into a slot or something as a receiver, or move in from the slot into the backfield and play at that full house backfield that we've seen some runs out of earlier in the season.
Back to 1930s football.
Yeah, why not? With what we've seen is the linebackers have got smaller. Teams have moved to play a nickel as kind of the base defense. So the way to combat that is put bigger bodies on the field and run them over. And we know Scatterboo can run them over. We saw what he did to Nick Bolton and the Chiefs, and actually, these linebackers cannot handle Cam Scatterboo. Awuzie as a DB, a cornerback, we could definitely strengthen at corner. Potentially, if we lose Flott, we might choose Awuzie instead and bring a guy in. I think it ranks 14th out of 113 corners. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of the names pop up. Obviously, Chris Board, who was on there, was a former specials player that was at the Ravens previously as well. So there's people like that will appear on the roster that are maybe some of the special teamers that get cycled through as well. But yeah, interesting. There's a few names out there.
There's one name on that list that sort of, it kind of stands out a little bit to me, and that's Carl Van Noy. And I think, we've spoken about on this podcast for as long as I remember, and Shane will be a testament to this, that we just seem to kind of look over linebackers. We don't tend to focus too much on them. So we've got Bobby O, we've got Micah McFadden, and what is his name? Escaped me right now. Darius Musau. Carl Van Noy is 34. Will be 35 by the time the new season comes around. He signed a 2-year contract with the Ravens in 24, 2 years, $10 million, so $5 million APY, right? 2-time Super Bowl winner with the New England Patriots. Played 15 games this season, just gone. He fractured his eye socket in week 2 and didn't miss any time because of that injury. Last season 2024, career high of 12.5 sacks. in 16 games. And I think he would just bring that sort of that veteran presence to that linebacker room, that the likes of Musau, or potentially a rookie that we bring in from the draft, which hopefully, touch wood, we actually do bring a linebacker in during the draft, that they can learn from. And what better player to learn from than a two-time Super Bowl winner, plus a player like Bobby Okereke? Bring him in on a 1 year, $4 million contract. Not going to cost much at all, and low risk, high reward, right? Because he can still play. He's appeared in 31 games over the last 2 years for the Ravens, so he can still play. He's still got the engine. Just depends whether he wants to do it or not. And moving forward, obviously, like I said, he's going to be 35 come the season. But for me, yeah, he stands out a little bit for me. He was AFC Defensive Player of the Month in September this season, just gone, and he's also selected to his first Pro Bowl as well. So, considering like I said, he won 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots, never selected to a Pro Bowl until this year. So, and he finished the season, the season where he had 12.5 sacks. He finished with at least 1 sack in his last 5 games in that season as well. So, it's, for me, like I said, just that bringing that veteran presence in the linebacker room just for a year, to work alongside Bobby and work with Mike and work with Darius and potentially a rookie that we bring in, and just sort of elevate that linebacker room, because we have struggled at linebacker in terms of tackling, in terms of wrapping the players up, and I think he's tackled in 12 years in the league, 561 total tackles, so he's got the pedigree. So I think he'd be a great addition to this defense. All righty. Are you going to say something, Aaron?
No, I completely agree. I think depending on the defensive scheme, and again, if we get into a scheme that likes to blitz a lot of linebackers, like the Denver scheme does, I think he would fit right in. Even if you brought him in as a situational guy rather than a full-time guy. And having some leadership in that defense, some veterans, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I don't think he'd be too expensive either, based on Ravens' contract and his age and everything else. He's a guy that loves football.
Exactly that. And his stats say it all, really. 57 sacks across his career, 4 interceptions, 14 forced fumbles, and 2 defensive touchdowns as well. So, his stats are pretty damn good. There's a reason he's a 2-time Super Bowl winner. Alrighty. We could talk about John Harbaugh all night, right?
Easily.
Let's face it. We could talk about him all night, but unfortunately, that is all we have time for this evening. We'll be back next Thursday to bring you all the latest news. No doubt by that time, pen would have been put to paper, and he would have signed his contract. Obviously, there's not anything confirmed as of yet. I'm just refreshing Twitter as we speak, or X as you call it.
That's what I've been doing. I just keep looking to see if any official announcements being made or not.
No, nothing yet.
What better way than to officially announce John Harbaugh would it be for Tish to get his plane with a banner saying John Harbaugh confirmed head coach off the back of Tish's plane over MetLife? That would be the best way to do it, right?
That'd be epic.
That would be pretty cool, actually, wouldn't it? That would be pretty good. But yeah, no doubt by this time next week, he would have signed on the dotted line, and we'll have lots to talk about and look forward to for this coming season, including our pending free agents for next year as well, which we're going to be talking about and going through next week. But anything else before we go, guys?
No, that's good. I really enjoyed getting on tonight and talking about our new head coach. These are exciting times. They really are. He is the real deal. And every Giants fan should be excited about this news. And I'm looking it makes. I enjoy the off-season content anyway, but it makes this off-season even more exciting.
Yeah, and let's all hope we can be as happy as Shane is going into the official announcement. And other than that, I've got 2 words for you.
John Harbaugh.
Good night.
And on that note, thanks to everyone for watching and listening this evening, for your comments. We appreciate you all getting involved as usual. And my thanks, as ever, go to Kev and to Aaron for joining me. We're signing off. Until next time, John Harbaugh's a Giant. Let's go, Giants.